Well, good afternoon, everyone. I've invited you to my home today because as someone asking Minnesotans to trust and entrust me with decisions that will determine the future of the state of Minnesota, I think it's important for them to know, as candidates for governor, who I am, where I earn a living, and how I'm financing my campaign. Tomorrow, every candidate for governor, independents, Republican, DFL, will file papers disclosing how much money they have raised in this campaign. But the forms we file tomorrow will only tell voters part of the story. Current law doesn't require candidates for governor to tell Minnesotans enough about who we are or how we earn a living. When I'm governor, that will change. And those changes will start today. The details I'm making public today make it clear that my campaign for governor is being financed honestly and transparently through contributions from thousands of Minnesotans, hardworking Minnesotans. The truth is, I know where I came from, I know who I'm fighting for, and I'm fighting for the hardworking people of Minnesota who deserve a commitment to making their lives better. That's why I'm running for governor, and that's why thousands of Minnesotans are actively supporting this campaign, donating their time, donating their efforts, and their contributions to get Minnesotans back to work. In just 1 year, just a little short of 1 year in fact, 3,523 Minnesotans have contributed individual grassroots donations to this campaign, with an average donation of $218. That has raised more than $1.2 million. Working together, we have raised the resources to win in August and November and beat Tom Emmer in November. That's what hardworking Minnesotans can achieve by working together. That's how a grassroots campaign should be financed in Minnesota. But the truth is, current law in Minnesota leaves more questions than answers for Minnesota voters. In fact, according to the Center for Public Integrity, Minnesota has one of the weakest candidate disclosure laws, financial disclosure laws in the country. The Center for Public Integrity gave Minnesota an F. Currently, Minnesota ranks 40th in the nation for financial details that candidates are required to disclose to voters. Minnesotans must and can do better. That's why I'm proposing a comprehensive set of candidate financial disclosure reporting form that directly addresses this gaping loophole in the state law. These new laws will ensure trust and transparency going forward for Minnesota voters and those running for governor. My proposal will require that all candidates for statewide office have to file and disclose something that plainly describes the income, assets, investments held by themselves and their spouses. I have completed the form and I'm making it public to you today. I call on all candidates in this race, Independence Party, Republican, and DFL, to do the same. Because I don't need this new law to take effect to know that disclosing our personal finances is the right thing to do. I know it's the right thing to do. Minnesotans know it's the right thing to do. And as their governor, Minnesotans can always expect me to do the right thing. Minnesotans should expect nothing less from their governor. All right, we'll take a couple questions.
Do you see yourself as the only real middle-class candidate in this race?
Well, I think with what we have disclosed from our tax forms and others, it's pretty clearly that in the leading candidates in the race, that's clear.
Why are you limiting this to statewide candidates? Why not your legislative colleagues?
Certainly would have a discussion with the legislature about that, but I think it's most important right now, and I'm running for governor, to ask all statewide candidates to do this.
To read between the lines, you seem to be suggesting that there are one, maybe two candidates in this race that aren't telling voters enough. Please elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, I think that it's important here to focus on what can be changed, and the ranking by the 40th in the country and the F rating is probably the driving force here more than anything, that there are big holes in our current state law. At one time, Minnesota was thought of as a leader in campaign finance and financial disclosure, and we have lagged behind. So it's more about going forward, and I think there are a number of candidates who Minnesotans would like to know where their sources of money are coming from.
Wasn't the F in 2006, 4 years ago? So why didn't you propose this then? Why hadn't this passed in the last 4 years if it's the right thing to do?
As Speaker, I have been very active in reforming the rules of the House. And in fact, we've had the largest reforms when I've been Speaker of the House that we've had in generations. Being able to streamline process, being able to do a number of things that have improved the process of the House. I've been very focused on that. I've heard from members often, and that's where I put my energy. I think we need to do this. We've had a governor who's roadblocked this. He hasn't been interested in changing these financial disclosure laws either. What Minnesotans can expect from me is that we're going to have more transparency and disclosure.
Let me try it a different way here. What do you think voters are missing out on based on the way that your Democratic rivals specifically are handling their disclosures?
I think we should think about it in terms of what is happening in other states and what voters get to know in other states about their candidates for governor and other offices. They get to know where their income is coming from. They get to know where their spouse's income is coming from. They get to know what resources they have available to them to either run a campaign or what their current financial situation is. So I think it's more about going forward and how we compare to other states. And this is not a good record for us right now.
Why is the spousal income so important?
The spousal income is more standard in a lot of states who score a much higher grade than us and score much more highly under the center's rankings. And so it's an important piece of doing this. I think it's an important piece going forward because clearly we have situations out there where having that spousal disclosure is important. I think it's just a fair thing to do.
Is there something inherently concerning about a candidate that self-finances or spousal finances, if you may?
Well, I think that there's not something inherently concerning, but I think being more transparent about the resources available is the important part of that.
And your contributions were for this? I saw that number.
$250.
If you become governor, would you propose this for the legislature as well, or just for statewide candidates?
I would start with statewide candidates. If the legislature, through the committee process, adds in, I think that's a good idea.
Doesn't that make it more palatable for the legislature to pass this with the legislature, which has been reluctant to disclose more about themselves? Mm-hmm. Doesn't it make it easier to pass?
What makes it easier to pass,
Rachel? If it's just statewide candidates rather than your colleagues.
I think the important part, and Representative Winkler could talk about this. I'm sure he's willing to fill out a similar form. I think that the important part here is making sure that in the office I'm running for, that this disclosure is happening.
You talk about the average contribution. I think what you said, 218.
Correct.
Do you know how many you've maxed out on in this campaign?
I think Jamie Tincher could give you that information, the campaign manager.
How tough has raising money been?
Well, actually, I am not going to tell you that it's easy, but I also am found that I am pretty good at asking people to contribute to this campaign and make an investment in Minnesota. And so people, when they have heard the appeal of the Minnesota that we're going to create together, an investment in jobs, an investment in education, including early childhood education and healthcare, people are excited about that and they're willing to contribute.
How much time do you think you spend percentage-wise on just raising money?
I just work all day long from sun up to sundown and past sundown. So I don't know what percentage I spend on each thing. I just keep doing it.
Representative Winkler, has there been a similar proposal to this in the last several years, and if so, what happened to it?
I am not aware of anybody proposing comprehensive candidate or statewide office holder disclosure of this kind of financial information. I think the fact is that we have been dealing with a number of issues in recent years on campaign finance, disclosure of corporate money and other kinds of issues, and so our plate has been fairly full, and we've also not had the kind of environment in which Republicans were willing to agree and work on those issues, and we haven't had a governor who was willing to engage. So far we've been stymied in a lot of ways, and I look forward to working with a governor who's actually willing to roll up her sleeves and get this done.
Are there specific other states that you know of that require this level of spousal disclosure?
There's a number of them actually, and we can get them for you. I think there's probably more than a dozen that require spousal disclosure.
Which state did you model your?
I think Washington State and Louisiana actually moved from being near bottom to near top on their disclosure laws.
So that was the template of the.
Yes, it was a mix of those things, bringing those together as a proposal. Okay.
Great.
Well, thanks you guys for coming. All right. Great.
Grab some lemonade.